I think that leads and segues nicely into how to justify your employee listening strategy when budgets are tight. Because I think what we often talk about at WorkBuzz is you start with the end in mind. What are you trying to solve for? And how do we ask the questions to help you get there? And so when you are going into challenging times, it might be worth just stopping and resetting what that is. You might have had a strategy a couple of years ago, but is there that opportunity to almost reset where you are from an organizational perspective and the good things that are going to be happening, the bad things that are going to be happening in the next 2 years, and how do you kind of shift that strategy accordingly? So with that in mind, how do organizations justify that need to keep listening when, you know, through these challenging times and when budgets are going to get challenged?
Yeah, I think it's tricky, obviously. I mean, when companies get into that kind of cost-cutting mode, I guess, you know, the budgets that they start to look at are the ones that are not essential, and sometimes employee survey budgets kind of fall under that bracket. But for me, over the years, having, as we said right at the beginning, having gone through a couple of recessions or more than that now, you've still got to listen to your employees in good times. You know, when we can congratulate each other and pat each other on the back, and also bad times when we need to understand what people's worries and concerns are, not just about themselves, but about the organisation as a whole. And understanding those worries helps you better design culture to cope with challenging times. It helps you design strategy, and as you said, reset strategy around challenging times. Where do we need to go? What do we need to do? What do we need to communicate? What do we need to hone in on? That's going to make people feel better about working here at this point in time, and better about how the future looks for them. I think the other thing as well is that there's a danger that if people have had a voice in the past, and we suddenly stop listening to people and cut the budget and cut surveys, that's all going to cause real issues for people as well. That voice across the whole of the employee base will disappear, and that contribution to where the organisation is heading will disappear, and that will impact on engagement and impact on all those other factors we talked about earlier as well. So really important to maintain employee voices from the employee's point of view, as much as maintaining that listening programme from the organisation's point of view.
Yeah, it's that long-term strategy, isn't it?
Yeah, I've always felt that at the one level, intellectually, perhaps from a kind of head argument, there's an ROI on employee engagement. I know WorkBuzz have written on this and have published various things, but you know, you are looking at your employee net promoter score. You can measure productivity. You can certainly track revenue per employee, cost of employee turnover, cost of absenteeism. And I think when you look at making an impact on those metrics, quite a clear return on investment for relatively small outlays on employee listening, employee engagement surveys, you know, is evident, and there's a lot of good case studies and a lot of good academic content proving that this is the case. So the head argument is there, but I think actually it's the heart argument that we sometimes feel more constrained in putting forward, that we should feel less constrained in putting forward. Everybody wants to work somewhere where it's a great place to work, where there is a buzz to the culture, where it is a happy and productive place, where you don't have Sunday night dread because Monday is a day in the office. And that applies as much as it does to the C-suite and the executive team level as it does to the frontline workers. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest that you don't get to that happy culture state unless you are in a continual dialogue with your colleagues at every level in the organization around how can we make this a better place to be. To me, I think if you have to go down the cold, hard data route, you can do it quite easily. But actually, there's something about inspiration and passion, not perspiration, that most people can connect with. My challenge to myself always, and my challenge to HR directors was always this, which is if I wasn't working in that place, and they didn't want to create it, I was in the wrong place and should be somewhere else. So that's probably something that you want to think about yourselves individually in terms of the teams that you sit in, because there are employers out there who would welcome people who want to create and shape that happier place, and you don't have to stick somewhere because it's miserable. Those companies will die anyway.